Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're looking at something truly fundamental to the human experience. Across almost every ancient culture on Earth, there's this shared origin story about how humanity first received light and fire. Today, we're going to examine three brilliantly crafted indigenous tales from North America. And we're going to unpack not just the narratives themselves, but the incredible hidden wisdom packed inside them.
Now, you might look at a glowing ember and think of these stories as just, well, simple bedtime fables. But that is a massive underestimation. What we're actually looking at are incredibly sophisticated vessels of knowledge. These narratives were carefully designed to transmit vital technological instructions, complex scientific etiologies about the natural world, and profound philosophical frameworks across thousands of generations. It's like a giant puzzle of human survival.
To really get this, we've got to put ourselves in the mindset of the ancient world. Imagine this baseline, shared all across North America. Long, long ago, the world was freezing. It was entirely consumed by a cold, relentless dark. Humans and animals were just totally miserable. So the ultimate question facing these early communities wasn't necessarily how to invent light, but rather, who would be brave enough or clever enough to step up and bring the fire?
Okay, let's dive into this. To see exactly how different cultures answered that question, we're going to make three distinct stops. First, we'll head up to the Pacific Northwest, to the ocean and forest regions of the Haida people. Then we're going to travel across the continent to the southeastern U.S., deep into the Appalachian Mountains of the Cherokee Nation. And finally, we'll head out to the western U.S., exploring the Great Plains, Basin, and Southwest regions shared by various tribes.
Stop number 1, British Columbia and southeastern Alaska, home of the Haida. Their culture is so deeply connected to the ocean and the forest, and they're renowned for their towering totem poles and complex art. But at the very center of their mythology sits this incredibly powerful archetype, the raven. And he isn't just a bird, right? He's a clever, shape-shifting trickster. His main job is basically disrupting the status quo and acting as the catalyst to bring vital gifts to humanity.
In the Haida tradition, the freezing darkness wasn't just some natural weather phenomenon. It was a monopoly. The world's light, the sun, the moon, and the stars, was literally being hoarded. An old man was keeping all of this light locked away inside a series of wooden boxes in his house. Well, Raven, getting pretty tired of stumbling around in the dark, decides this simply won't do, so he begins to plot a wildly daring heist.
And you've got to hear this infiltration plan. It is wild. Step 1, Raven actually shapeshifts into a tiny pine needle and floats in a water basket. Step 2, the old man's daughter drinks the water, swallows the needle, and eventually gives birth to Raven in human form. Crazy, right? Step 3, now acting as this beloved grandson, Raven cries and begs incessantly until the grandfather finally caves and opens the boxes. And Step 4, the climax. As that final box opens, Raven instantly reverts into a giant bird, snatches the light in his beak, blasts through the roof's smoke hole, and scatters the stars, moon, and sun into the sky. I mean, it is just a spectacular multi-stage heist.
All right, let's move over to our next region and see how this builds on those themes. We are now in the Appalachian Mountains with the Cherokee, one of the largest indigenous nations in North America. They have this rich legacy, including a philosophy rooted in natural balance and, of course, the unique written language created by Sequoia. Here, the story starts just a bit differently. The creator sees the freezing animals and sends down a lightning bolt. It strikes a hollow sycamore tree, leaving a single, divine spark of fire burning inside.
But there's a catch, a massive one. That burning sycamore tree is trapped on an island surrounded by water. The freezing animals hold a great council. They can see the fire, they desperately need the warmth, but retrieving it from this isolated, dangerous location seems nearly impossible. I mean, who is actually going to cross the water and face that kind of intense heat?
Naturally, you'd think the biggest and strongest would win here, right? Well, brute strength completely fails them. Raven flies over, but he gets way too close, and the intense smoke permanently turns his feathers pitch black. Owl tries next, but the scorching embers literally blast his eyes. The heat just completely repels all the strong birds. But then, the Waterspider steps forward. Small, unassuming, but incredibly brave. She spins this tiny silk bowl, secures it to her back, delicately walks right across the surface of the water, and safely retrieves a single life-saving coal. It's his beautiful lesson that quiet courage and ingenuity can completely overpower mere physical size.
Now, let's journey out to the Great Plains and the Southwest. Out here, winter's notoriously deadly. And just like the Haida story, the warmth is being hoarded.
High on a mountain, three selfish fire beings watch a flame day and night, making sure humanity stays freezing. But the Western tribes have their own trickster archetype, Coyote. He's dual-natured, sometimes a bit foolish, but ultimately a clever hero who decides it's time to intervene and steal the fire from these relentless guards. And this brilliantly illustrates Coyote's genius. He knows for sure he can't fight three fire beings head-on, so he uses distraction. He wanders up the mountain, pretending to be nothing but a harmless, friendly little pup. He just waits for the exact fraction of a second the fire beings look away, snatches a burning branch in his jaws, and bolts down the mountain, kicking off a perfectly coordinated escape plan.
It literally turns into a thrilling sports broadcast. The fire beings give chase. Coyote is running out of breath, so he tosses the coal to Squirrel. Squirrel sprints until she's nearly caught, then passes it to Chipmunk. Chipmunk takes the next leg down the mountain, dodging claws, and finally hurls it to Frog. Frog takes the final turn, leaping toward the water to evade capture. But right before he hits the surface, boom! The fire is passed straight into a piece of wood for safekeeping.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these three architects of light compare. Look at the methods they use to overcome their obstacles. The Haida Raven overcomes the hoarding old man through complex shape-shifting and deception. The Cherokee Waterspider conquers the isolated island through pure courage and ingenuity. And the Western Coyote defeats the fire beings through distraction and a highly coordinated relay race. Three very different heroes, but they all secure the exact same, absolutely crucial resource for their people. To really appreciate these narratives, we need to introduce a specific term, etiological myths. I know, it sounds a bit academic, but these are basically just stories specifically designed by ancient cultures to explain why the natural world looks and behaves the way it does today. They function as a sort of ancient, narrative-driven scientific explanation.
Because what you'll notice in these stories is that bringing the light always leaves a mark. The physical traits of the animals we see today were explained as the scars of these ancient missions, worn as permanent badges of honor. I mean, why is the raven's plumage pitch black? Because of the smoke from the Cherokee Island. Why does the owl have those glowing rings around its eyes? From the scorching embers. The squirrel's tail is permanently curled backward from the heat of Coyote's coal, and the chipmunk bears physical stripes on his back from the claws of the pursuing fire being. It is such a wonderful way to encode the natural world with historical meaning.
But beyond just explaining animal traits, there is a profound technological twist hidden here. Remember how the Coyote relay race ends? The fire isn't just dropped on the ground. Frog passes it directly into a piece of wood. This isn't just a fun story detail, it is a literal survival manual. It encoded the technological insight that fire sleeps inside wood. It taught early humans that by taking two sticks and rubbing them together to create friction, they possessed the very real power to wake the fire up. The myth is the instruction manual. So, the crucial point is the shared philosophical truth that emerges at the intersection of these cultures. Across the Pacific Northwest, the southeastern U.S. and the western U.S., entirely distinct environments, we see the exact same underlying philosophy. Whether humanity is facing a hoarding old man, an unreachable island, or selfish fire beings, the message is the same. Light and warmth are fundamental rights for everyone, not properties to be hoarded. Nature, through trickery, bravery, or teamwork, will always find a way to break monopolies and distribute the light to all.
Which leaves us with something quite powerful to think about. Long after the cold and dark were banished, these animal teachers continued to pass down the light of ancient wisdom. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder as we wrap up. If a simple tale about a coyote and a frog actually contains the exact blueprint for early friction fire technology, what other vital survival instructions and ancient truths are currently hiding in plain sight inside the stories we dismiss today as simple fairy tales? Think about it. Thanks for learning with me today on The Explainer.